What's going on? This is definitely not the way that I wanted to start this channel, but as you will see, I often suffer from the affliction of procrastination. So, in order to kind of avoid that, I'm doing this right now. So, let me introduce myself. My name is Biggah, spelled Biggah. Basically, it's obviously a nickname, and I got that nickname because of my stature. I am 6 feet 8 inches tall, well over 200 pounds, so I am bigger than most people. So there's that. The reason that I'm starting this channel here is because of my mental health issues. As a black man in America, I have been conditioned for very, very long, many decades. I'm 47 years old, by the way. I had been conditioned to neglect my own mental health and not take mental health in general very seriously. And as a result of that, I have suffered, right? I have been dealing with anxiety issues, I've been dealing with depression issues, and I have also been dealing with denial in regards to both of those things because I felt that admitting that I was dealing with anxiety on a regular basis, not just in high pressure situations, it made me feel less of a man. To admit that there were things going on in my life that I couldn't deal with to the point where I was depressed about it every time I thought about it, or those thoughts would consume me, made me feel less of a man, right? So what I would do is basically lie to myself and put on this false image for the world. And ultimately what ended up happening is fortunately I didn't have like a break or anything, but there was a situation that absolutely could have been avoided that kind of brought everything to a head. But everything happens for a reason, and if it was not for that situation occurring, I would not be in the space that I'm in now, where I'm comfortable enough to admit that I have these issues, confident enough to actually seek the help, and empathetic enough to share it with anybody who will listen, right? The point and purpose of this is not for me to go viral or anything like that, because for me, on some level, it is a bit embarrassing still. But even with that said, I'm willing to go through whatever if it's going to be beneficial to other people, especially other black men my age, older or younger, right? Because depending on where you come from, I'm not saying that this is a monolith for all black people, but depending on where you come from, it is very possible that your viewpoints on mental health, whether it be your mental health or the mental health of others, is not where it should be, right? Just as an example, using myself as an example, when it came to anybody else, right? Didn't matter black or white, male, female, young, old, any other human being, I would acknowledge and do whatever I could to aid in them being in a good mental space. But when it came to myself, I wouldn't acknowledge that I needed that same kind of help, right? So that was one of the dualities that I think made it difficult for me to seek out help, right? Because I wouldn't acknowledge that I needed it, right? I would see traits and hear other people say things, right? And know that I'm feeling those same things, or I'm going through that same type of an experience, or those same type of emotions. However, I wouldn't put myself in their place far enough to say, okay, well, the advice that I'm giving them, because it has been many times I've told people, listen, you can absolutely feel free to talk to me whenever you want, but you should probably seek some kind of a professional who may know more than I do, you know? I would not take that advice, even though the person I'd be talking to, it would be like I'm talking to myself, but I would just really not be mentally open enough to accept or admit that I needed the same help. That didn't, wouldn't say that it cost me any relationships. However, it did take its toll on pretty much every relationship that I have, right? My relationship with my wife, my relationship with my children, with my friends, all of these relationships were affected in one way or the other. Now, the relationship with my wife and my children, I would say probably had the most negative effect, right? Because what ended up happening, because I wasn't aware of how to deal with these issues, I became detached. And in that detachment, it wasn't a controlled detachment, right? I thought that it was a controlled detachment. I thought that I was just ignoring those feelings and the things that made me feel depressed or anxious, and I thought that that was the way to go. But reality, I was detaching myself from my family. I was not there. I'd be physically there, but mentally I wasn't there. And they would pick up on that, right? It would be almost like I would force myself to be around them. It's not that I don't love my family. It's not that I don't. I actually like my family. Like, I like my wife. She's funny. She's fucking smart. On top of that, she's fucking hot, right? My fucking sons are dope. Like, they're dope humans. My oldest, well, me and my wife's oldest is into film. My youngest is into music. When I was growing up, those were my two passions, right? So it's not like we don't have anything to talk about. We don't have anything in common. All of those things, all of those boxes are checked. But it felt almost like I would have to force myself to do family night, right? If I'm just alone with them, yeah, we can talk about whatever. And I've told my sons a million stories about my past experiences and things like that. So it's not like we don't talk or we don't communicate. But at the same time, the amount of detachment that I didn't notice, that I never noticed, they were feeling. And it wasn't until recently that I even became aware of this. Same thing with my wife, right? Like, I really do like my wife. Like, it's not like we've been together 20 years. It's not like I'm with her out of habit, or I'm with her because I don't want to start over, or I'm with her because I don't feel that I can start over. It really is because I think that she's a fucking dope human. You know what I'm saying? Like, really, really a dope human. And I like being around her. I love having conversations with her. But even with that, I was detached, right? And apparently, because of the detachment and because of the other issues that I was dealing with, I've never been violent, right? To the point where, like, I'm putting hands on my wife or my children. I don't believe in doing stuff like punching holes in walls and stuff like that in my house because I got to repair it. So that to me is kind of stupid. But I'm a yeller, and that really would cause fear in my family, and I didn't realize that. And that is definitely something that can affect them mentally, and I also wasn't aware of that. And I wasn't aware of that because, like I said, I was so detached. And I was detached because because I wasn't dealing with the issues that I needed to be dealing with. And what I plan on doing with these videos is not just exploring the different emotional states and the healing process, but I'm also going to be discussing the things that I experienced that maybe common, right? That put me in that space where I felt that I needed to detach myself, which then affected the relationships with everyone that I have. So that is basically the point and purpose of this channel. You will probably hear me in videos down the line referring to this video just, for a base knowledge of me and who I am. So if you hear it, this will be the video that I'm talking about, video number 1. I'm going to try to do at least one video a week. Really, I want to do more. I got to try to figure out how I can document things properly, because I'm going to be perfectly honest. This is not my first channel. This is not my first time dealing with social media. So I understand that there are certain precautions that I have to take in certain ways, and certain things rather, that I have to kind of guard. And because of that, making videos on the fly is not necessarily something that I'm always going to be able to do. However, with that said, I'm going to try to do at least one video a week. I'm going to try to not do all of the videos in the car. But more importantly, I'm going to be discussing the mentality and the mental health issues that I have been faced with, and the things that, as a black man, I've had to deal with in this country, which is a very, very large part of the depression and the anxiety that I've had to work through, and that I'm still currently working through. So with that said, I just want anyone who sees any of these videos, if it brings you any kind of peace in any way, even if it's just knowing that you are not alone, then that is my only goal. Everything else, everybody else, anybody that has anything negative to say, you will find that I really don't ignore much, and I reciprocate energy. So with that said, I will see you all soon. This is the first video. I'm Biggah. I'm out.